Yes.
Okay. Did she say yes? No. All right. Please, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody. Hope everyone had a safe 4th of July weekend and everyone went well and everything. I know we did have a few incidents around here, but roll call, please.
Tom Fetter?
Here.
Tom Kruger?
Here.
Artie Bryson?
Here.
Cindy Valentine here. John Horvath?
Here.
Joanne Shirkey?
Here.
Karen Straffen?
Absent excuse for Karen. All right, next thing we have is bills payable.
Make a motion to pay the bills payable in the amount of $8,775.22.
Support?
We have motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of paying the bills payable $8,775.22 signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. First time we were able to do that without a roll call vote. There's a threshold. If it's over 10,000, you got to do roll call vote. So, okay, public comments relating to any business on the agenda. Do we have any public comments relating to anything on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Move right along to the consent agenda. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the board meeting of June 20th, 2016 in synopsis, reports, the check report, fire department, collection report, non-statutory duties and treasurer report, notices, road watch, consumer education, communication, Algonac Clay Historical Society, thank you card, and that's it.
Okay, we have motion. Do we have support for the consent agenda?
Support.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I got something to look at in the minutes. Number 10. Motion by Shirkey, supported by Valentine, to postpone Resolution 21620 Kruger Agreement for stipend and additional duties, pardon me. I believe the nays were Fetter and Horvat on that one. And then also, I'd like to talk non-statutory duties of the treasurer.
Non-statutory. Okay, we'll pull out non-statutory duties of the treasurer. We'll make it 5 under new business. Okay, anything else? Okay, we have motion and support for the consent agenda, but we are pulling out the treasurer non-statutory duties. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, brace yourself, the supervisors report. That's right. That's painless. I did have actually a very concerning issue with our recycling program going on. Quite honestly, I have been getting complaints of our recycling materials ending up in our regular trash. And we got proof that it was actually happening to a certain extent Friday, and a little bit on Anchor Bay Drive and on Stone. And I got pictures, and it was, I don't know, I was pretty upset about it. I talked to them. They came in my office this morning and I talked to them about it. It's a real it's actually a serious crime because it's fraud towards the township. And they're claiming that it was a training issue with one specific driver, and has been corrected. Now, mind you, they do have a split truck where 2/3 will take the regular trash and 1/3 will take recyclables. And sometimes I've seen that truck going down the road and then people will call, they're throwing everything in the same truck. That's not necessarily the case all the time, but there was a case Friday where our recyclables was placed into our regular trash. And other than taking their word about it too, I wanted to be more proactive. I talked to the folks at the county landfill. We have an advantage that I think we're the only ones using it. You can use those light green clear through trash bags also. And they I was talking to Matt up at the county or landfill, and they do kind of watch if there's a lot of recyclables in a load when they're moving it and doing what they do with it. And I said, well, how do you do that? He goes, well, most all the regular garbage is in bags, but if it's loose flopping around, recyclables, more than likely it could have come from a green bin. But they're going to be on the lookout for any of our light green bags out at the line, and if they get one, they're going to be calling us. So, I think I corrected this issue. I hope I did today. Time will tell, and we'll be watching it. And I was very upset, and they know about it. President Ontario is supposed to call me tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. But I just want to let everybody know there was a couple things on Facebook. I didn't really answer it. I didn't have time, but
Well, that's hitting us two ways, right?
Right.
Because number one, we pay for recycling.
And we pay-
And number two, we pay tipping fees.
exactly.
So we're paying to have it recycled, which it isn't.
Right,
And then we're paying for the additional weight.
Exactly. By splitting that out, the township has saved quite a bit of money on the garbage fees. That was a good thing. But yeah, this particular time, and they claim it was this only one driver. The driver thought they were helping the crew out because it was a long weekend, they were running behind type thing. I don't know, but they're telling me it's corrected, and I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that we are taking. Because seriously, there has been a couple of garbage companies that their management ended up, I don't know if you ever heard of it, Tim, but actually ended up being criminally prosecuted for fraud. That's what it is. So we have tentative agreements with all 5 union contracts. We're just working on the language, putting them together. Actually, the other 2 that we did approve, we did find a few mistakes in the final copy that we sent back to be corrected. So hopefully we'll have the other 3 for board approval coming soon, and we'll have the corrected for office and the water department, one that I can sign that's corrected. Let's see. Harson's Island Ferry, Champions Auto Ferry did raise their rates July 1st. It was approved by the Motor Carrier Division of Michigan State Police. That's what they fall under now. As far as regulation, it was actually the first time in 3 years that there's been a rate adjustment for the ferry. And but I am happy to say that the commuter rate has stayed the same. The only thing that went up is the trucks per axle, the round trip, and the round trip cars and motorcycles went up. I did get a few phone calls on that. I reminded people, 2 years ago, he was approved to raise it $1 across the board, and he decided not to do that. Truthfully, my own opinion, I think it's better that the commuter rate stayed the same, and it all could have gone up $1 versus $2 for the round trip, and the commuter rate stays the same. So,
Could you explain the difference between those two, Artie? Because not everybody understands the difference.
well, you can buy a book of tickets, and you don't have to live on the island to use it. You just have to use the ferry. Like, there's people that live on the mainland that work over there. But you buy a book of tickets, and there's 20. Is it 20?
20.
20. Sorry.
20.
There's 20.
He never bought a boat.
Yeah, I never, hey,
You've never bought one, have you?
I sold a lot of them back in the day. But there's 20, and it comes out to be $6 a round trip. And the old round trip price for the non-commuter rate was 8 and went up to 10. Anybody can buy a book of tickets, and I know they expire after a certain amount of time, usually a year and a half or two, and you can. A ticket's actually a substitute of cash, and so anytime you can actually go in the ferry office and turn them in and they'll buy them back from you. So, but that's how the commuter does.
Thank you.
Is that clear?
Sure.
Okay. So, yes. The police edition, we're wrapping that up on the edition of the police department. They did take a little longer than promised. Actually, we put some furniture in there today, and it probably should be finished up totally in a day or two. I know Joanne asked me about, she was a little concerned. We are holding back the 2 last payments until it's done. We do a final walkthrough with our punch list and make sure everything is done on that. So I know the guys are anxious to start getting in there and taking advantage of that new space. Assessing, we did have our AMAR audit in our assessing department. Everybody in St. Clair County is getting this audit. I did talk to the auditor, and he gave me pretty good, favorable feedback that, we're in pretty good shape. I'm not sure when he'll actually give us a hard copy of the audit. So, but I know the assessing department's glad that that's over. I wanted to mention to people excited about this. Oh, you know what? I got to back up to the ferry. I forgot. I received also, there's been talk about the owner, David Bryson, my brother, of retiring, closing down the ferry, this, that, if he doesn't get a raise or anything. And I was copied on this, but this was to the Motor Carrier Division. This letter is issued to cancel, rescind, or withdraw all termination of services notices that were previously sent to the Michigan Service Commission. So basically said that he's not going to shut the ferry down, he's not going to retire, he's not going to pack it in and take all his ferries to Florida. So I wanted to mention that too. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, we signed up for a program through the State Attorney General's office, and they are going to, or we are going to host, it's a program put on by them, and we are going to host 6 seminars, if you would, put on by the Michigan the Michigan Department of Attorney Generals, and their consumer education series. The first one is July 20th. They're going to be on the 3rd Wednesday, I believe it is. Yeah, that's the 3rd Wednesday of every month. And the first one is phone, mail, and e-scams. And they're going to have a seminar here. Basically, that one's going to talk about learn the telltale signs of scams found through phone calls, mail, email, and text, and learn how to minimize your risk of being scammed. I'm going to start publicizing this quite a bit and get some flyers out, but I'm pretty excited about this. Knowledge is power, and the more we can educate our consumers. We also have one in August. It's on identity theft and how to protect your identity. The third one is on online safety, different issues what can happen to you going online. The one in October is going to be home repair improvement scams. You know, there's some unscrupulous contractors taking advantage of people. November is investment frauds. And we're not doing one in December because it was like 21st of December and too close. So we're doing it in January. It's in-home care and senior residence scams, people taking advantage of older people. So these are free at cost, or free, and I'm hoping people will take advantage of this, and we're going to start getting the word out on that going forward. Let's see. About a week, it seems like a long time ago, about a week and a half ago, we had Jobby Nooner out, and I know the county sheriff was out there big time, and I mean, how many law enforcement agencies were there? I mean, I never, 5 or 6? No? Three times? Really? There was a lot. Yeah, oh, with the fire departments and everything. But it was pretty calm compared to past. I think we only had 2 or 3 arrests, and the transports of medical transports off was down quite a bit. And so I would say it was a successful Jobby Nooner, if that's possible, right? I did want to mention too, we had the Antique Boat Show, actually 2 weekends ago, and the Log Cabin Days, and those are both great events too. I came here to Log Cabin Day and got a strawberry sundae, and it looked like it was well attended, and they were all happy. And the Antique Boat Show is just spectacular. That's a great event every time. Upcoming events, every Wednesday, 2 to 5, we have the Farmers Market sponsored by the Greater Elginak Chamber of Commerce in our park. They got some nice vendors with some, a lot of plants and produce and some nice stuff. July 9th is the Strawberry Festival at St. Paul's Church on Harson's Island. And we took a week vacation from music in the park because of the pickerel tournament last week. But Thursday is Mickey Meldrum and the Meldrum Brothers, sponsored by Gilbert Funeral Homes in the park in Elginak. The 14th is Stone Soup. That's a nice R&B band, and that's also going to be in Elginak. And then there's a band, the 21st, Dogfish, that's going to be in Elginak. Then after that, July 28th, it moves back into our park, and we're going to start it off with Burnwood. That's what we've been doing since we started this. So it's all good stuff. All right, any questions for anybody? Sounds great. That's my report. I don't think we have any unfinished business. So under new business, we have the honor of having Sheriff Tim Donnellon here, as wants to talk to us about, you'll have to close out those windows and start your, he's going to give us a presentation. Hey Tim, before you start, what's the #1 problem we have?
Drugs, bar none, absolutely. Heroin, methamphetamine.
Heroin, meth.
Yeah.
#1 problem of the whole county.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, not even a close second to anything.
Hey Tim, can you turn that side off, the lights?
The other two.
Yeah, not you.
Perfect. I'll try to get my head out of the middle of that here. So, well, good afternoon, and thank you for seeing me. I certainly appreciate being on the agenda. Our drug task force millage is up for renewal, and we are visiting all 23 townships in the 7 municipalities. I have a sergeant lieutenant tonight at 2 other townships as well, but I greatly appreciate the opportunity to stand up here with Chief, my coach here, and we'll go over this whole presentation. I'll try to zip through it as quick as I can. I know it's a beautiful July evening and we're indoors here, but there's a lot of data from the last year, is also a lot of historical facts that'll kind of give you the whole idea how this came about and why we have the drug task force and how it started. In the conclusion, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about the drug task force, and if I don't have the answer today, I will get it for you. So a little bit when you look at this, these are our partners that we can you hear me all right when I stand back? Mm-hmm. Okay. These are our partners we have currently in the drug task force. Port Huron Police have been with us since the inception. Take it out. Sure. That'll be perfect. Thank you. Port Huron Police have been with us since the inception. We have U.S. Border Patrol with 2 agents, U.S. Border Air Marine, and U.S. Customs. These are our 3 federal partners. Those are relatively new to the Drug Task Force within the last 5 years. And those are extremely beneficial because the federal government funds these positions for the drug unit. We supply equipment, vehicles, et cetera, training, but they supply the boots on the street and the manpower. A little bit on the historical perspective. About 1985 is when this started. About 1980, 81, 82, the crack cocaine started hitting the city of Detroit, and it didn't take long for it to work itself eastbound up I-94. When that happened, St. Clair County was really caught off guard. You know, early 80s, this is small rural St. Clair County. There was no formal narcotics unit like you have at Detroit Police and the bigger law enforcement agencies. We had patrol division, and you really can't work narcotics in a uniform in a marked car. You got to have undercover guys, you got to have surveillance teams, entry teams. It's a whole almost division of labor within the law enforcement circle. So about 1985, this thing arrived. Now what happened was there was a millage plan, and there were 3 individuals, I'll give you the history, that really were the brain children. We had a township supervisor, Wales Township, Lee Masters, 1985. Later became chairman of the Board of Commissioners. You probably all know him. Jim Goldsworthy was a high school principal in Port Huron Northern, since retired. And Dan Lane was a sergeant, later our 4-term sheriff. Those 3 put their heads together and thought, what in the world are we going to do about this crack cocaine? Because it is hitting St. Clair County hard. Jim Goldsworthy put on his school administrative hat and said, you know, when we need a new high school or a parking lot or a gym, we run millages in schools. And that's how they do it in Michigan. He said, let's try a drug task force millage. Completely out of the box thinking, very, very unique. Great approach, and I'll be darned it didn't pass. Right after we passed our Sanilac County, which had the same problem, followed suit. These are the only 2 in Michigan. Nobody else runs millages for narcotics because the stars really have to line up. You have to have a tremendous drug problem hitting your community and no way to combat it. So that's the history. A lot of people aren't aware of how and why it started. It's been the same for the last, since 1985, 30 plus years, a .28 mil. It's never increased. When you think about mills, a .28 mil is a pretty small mill. It generates about 1.5 million a year. But, you know, the method to the madness was we could keep our hands around what we had going on, and we just didn't want to mess with the formula. Now, you will see that things have changed dramatically in the last 5 years, and that's why we're here today, and we're going to ask for a change in our millage. Currently, at the .28, this is what your drug task force costs on a $100,000 house, about $14 a year, which is really not a lot of money when you think about the enforcement that these people are doing throughout the county. And there's 750 miles, as you know, of St. Clair County, so it's a lot of work and a lot of ground to cover. We're asking to increase this millage to a .56, a little more than half a mil. And when you see this presentation, I think you're going to understand why. And we thought we struggled very hard with this decision, but when you see these statistics and what's going on, you're going to see why we feel this is so important. This is the staff right now at Drug Task Force. You got about a dozen people, not a lot. A couple supervisors or deputies, and then our partners. This also pays for a full-time prosecuting attorney, and they do that for lateral prosecution. So you have the same prosecutor assigned. He's basically our drug czar. Prosecutor Windling had that position for a number of years, 12 years ago before he ran for office. So that is what covers the Drug Task Force in our partnership with the prosecutor's office as well as the secretary. Now when you look at our charges as well, obviously on the rise the last couple of years are felonies when you're better than 300 of those with a dozen employees. So that's busy, as well as the misdemeanors on top of that. Search warrants on traffic stops. I combine these together, and the reason we do that is many times we're getting ready to serve a search warrant. We may have a house under surveillance, and we'll wait for the individual to leave in his car. It's much safer for our people to arrest him in a car versus going in the house and digging him out of an apartment building. So they combine. A lot of times they'll stop the car, lock him up, and then go serve the warrant. So they intertwine when you look at our statistics. We've been consistent for years. This was a little bit of a strange year in 14. but in excess of 100 search warrants last year, which is, again, that's a lot of activity when you think of a dozen people. And in terms of employment, obviously both our departments, they run around the clock, 24/7. We call them platoons. You know, we have 4 different platoons. Well, narcotics are just one group. So when they're, you know, they have to sleep, they have to eat, they have to go to court, they get vacation. So there's really only one crew. And that's the difficulty when you're, you know, when you have a sheriff's deputy or a Clay PD on from 3 to 11, at 11:01 a new guy comes on, and then he'll handle it till 7. Then a new guy comes on 7 to 3. You don't have that in narcotics. You got one group, and that really stretches your manpower thin. Weapons confiscated as well. When you look at, we had a cache in 14 on one case that threw us off, but when you look at 2015, it was 60, and then when you look at our other slide back here with approximately 100 raids, that's about 6 out of 10 raids consistently we're finding weapons. That's a pretty big number for St. Clair County, and I can tell you, without a doubt, almost without exception, they're always stolen. And when you think about our biggest problem, we talked about being drugs, there's so many of these artifact crimes. And one of the biggest ones we have is home invasions. We're a rural area throughout St. Clair County. There's always crews breaking into houses in the daytime. They're always addicted to drugs, generally heroin, and they're stealing weapons, electronics, and cash. And we come across these guns and drug raids. I mean, you know, we don't find a registered gun owner selling meth. You find a stolen gun with a drug dealer. But 6 out of 10 times when they're serving warrants, they're running into weapons.
So, excuse me, Tim,
Yeah.
so your, the weapons confiscated kind of goes back parallel with your slide before that,
Yep.
as far as your number of
Yep.
stops and warrants.
Yep, 14 was an anomaly. It was a strange year where they just really had odd numbers. But when I threw it back consistent, we've been pretty steady.
Right.
Now the weapons, and I know the case in 14, it threw us off where a guy had
Lots.
Yes, and it statistically threw it off. So I bring that up, that was unusual. Now, one of the things too, and I think a lot of people don't realize when you think jurisdictionally, you know, we have 750 miles of St. Clair County. Out of the 83 counties in Michigan, nobody is set up like us. We've got I-94, I-69, I should say, that dead ends in St. Clair County with a major city at risk to our west, Flint. We have a tremendous amount of activity runs I-69, and it dead ends right here. We got I-94, where we have another city at risk, Detroit, with drugs running east, cash running west back into Detroit. Nobody else has this like we have it, where they come to a complete stop. If that wasn't difficult enough, then you've got an international border, 110 miles, liquid border. 2 bridges, 2 ferry crossings. You got Wapato Island, you got Harson's Island, you have all of this liquid border that is very, very hard to police. So when you think about, you know, why do we have a drug problem in St. Clair County? There's a number of reasons, but the biggest that we find is jurisdictionally and geography-wise, you don't have a Flint, Detroit, and a border anywhere else. We've got more water than anybody in St. Clair, anybody in Michigan. So it's really a different makeup when you look at that. So we put that slide in there just to kind of remind people that St. Clair County is a little different. What makes it beautiful to live in makes it challenging to be a drug officer. Now, what has changed in the last 5 years is actually these 3 right here. Prescription drugs have hit, heroin, which is completely related, and then our meth labs. Now, 5 years ago, we didn't have any of these 3 in St. Clair County. We had crack cocaine, crack cocaine, crack cocaine. And I can tell you I spent 10 years in the drug unit. And I left the drug unit the last time on October 1st of 2005. And I was never so tired in my life after spending the last 3 years there on that assignment. We do them usually at a 3-year time. And we didn't have any of these drugs. So it's far different today. And these have taken a hold in the fabric of our community. And there's no hot spot. It's from Birchville to Ira, one side of the county to the next. And we'll start off with the problems with our meth. Every picture on here is an actual St. Clair County Drug Task Force picture. These aren't pulled off the internet. These are our meth labs, and they pose just a huge community, public at large danger. They're explosive. They lead biohazard problems throughout the community, whether they're in a township park or whether they're in a boat or whether they're in a hotel room. They're all over St. Clair County. Very easy to cook, and it takes a lot of manpower, a lot of expense and a lot of hours to clean these things up, and it really put a hurt on our drug task force last year. And some of the costs on these, and these are all, each one of these is a one pot. Each one of those is a vessel that will have meth in it. And you'll find this stuff discarded with all the precursors all over St. Clair County. But the man hours that go into this is just unbelievable. It takes at least 6 guys to serve a warrant. And they have to be specially trained. We send them to Quantico, Virginia. They go down to the DEA headquarters, go through extensive training, and then the time it takes, and then the storage of the meth. You have to have a place to store your meth. We have a lab container, being basically like a semi-container that we can put our meth lab components in, so we can store it now. But it is a huge, huge cost to our budget and our man hours. And every day that you're chasing one of these, you're not chasing heroin or you're not chasing crack. So you have to almost pick your poison. What is your biggest priority today? And meth labs are a huge priority for us in St. Clair County. Now, when you look at our lab dismantle, how they've climbed, they're just steadily climbing, and 16 is going to be higher yet. And prior to this, and I can go back even 5-6 years ago, we had 1 or 2. When I was there, we had none. None in 2005. Didn't even enter our minds. But they have hit St. Clair County. They've hit Michigan on a whole, on just a vengeance. Now, this is our product seize as well, just through the roof, and it continues to climb. And, no end in sight with this stuff, unfortunately. And again, we see it in Clay Township just as well as you'd see it in Brockway Township. And it's a big expense to your fire service as well, because the fire department is out, they're on standby. There's been multiple house fires in the city of Port Huron and residential rentals that have started fire because of the meth cooks, and they've burned up homes, burned out neighbors. So they cause us a lot of anguish in the drug task force. Prescription pills. Another huge problem. Again, this is a picture of a raid we did with all of these script pills. And this really took hold 5, 6, 7 years ago with a lot of pain management clinics, a lot of people that being prescribed these opiates, some of them for legitimate reasons. But the problem is extremely addictive, very, very hard to get your hands on this when your scripts run out, and it is a very nasty withdrawal. And an opiate is an opiate, whether it's an Oxycontin from a doctor or heroin from a drug dealer. It's all opiate-based. So what we found is the prescription pills started hitting the street and really showing up in all of our drug raids. You might have meth, but you'd have some opiates, and they were all over, and we started seeing a lot of overdoses. And then, as you'll see, it peaked, and then it dropped. And it dropped because people transitioned over to heroin, and I'll show you the statistics on that. Our prescription pills just started rising. So we were seeing, almost 2,300 tablets that we're picking up in a year. That's a lot of scheduled, hard, heavy end-of-life narcotics. And then they dropped. Well, they didn't drop because the opiate problem went away. They dropped because there was a new drug came to town that was much more easier to get your hands on. So they just changed hats. Because if you're in withdrawal and you're on opiates, you go to heroin, you won't withdraw. And that was what happened. And I can tell you, I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of informants that were heroin addicts. Most of them started off on prescription pills. Some people don't transition if they have access to the pills. They just stay on the pills, but most transition over to the heroin. And it is a separate circle than your meth addicts. So if the meth wasn't bad enough, the heroin arrived. Now, when you look at the heroin again, serious, serious problem in St. Clair County, opiate-based. It's throughout our area. There's nowhere that's immune to that, and I mean it. I mean, I see it in Yale, where my kids go to high school, and we see it in Clay, and Chief Coach can tell you it's down here, no doubt about it. Very proud. When you look at our heroin seized as well, that's a lot of heroin, and it's just gone up and up every year. And this is combined when you saw our meth labs and then our meth product, both through the roof. Now, could you imagine how high that heroin would be if we weren't fighting with meth? Or how high the meth would be if we weren't fighting with heroin? You got one platoon, you have to pick your poison for the day. And they split the baby a lot of days and try to figure out, all right, what's the biggest priority we have? Is the meth lab going to burn down the neighborhood, or are 6 people going to OD and die today? You got to figure out which one you want to work on. Very, very difficult job these people have. If that wasn't bad enough, and I hate to be all doom and gloom, but crack cocaine we've been fighting for 35 years. That's why we started the Drug Task Force. One would have thought that would have slowed down. Hasn't slowed down in the least bit. It's so lucrative and so addictive. It's here. And when you look at our...
Last week.
Yep, absolutely. And when you look at our crack, 2015, we had the biggest year in crack seizures we've had in the last couple. And I was just mortified when I saw that statistic. And I was like, how in that world could that be when we have all this crack and heroin? Well, it just tells you that once these drugs get deep-seated into your community, they're here. And they are very, very hard to rid. And crack has been here for generations. I spent all of my 20s and 30s, it felt like chasing around crack dealers. Now we have it, and you know, think of what that number would be if it was 5 years ago and all of our manpower was toward crack. This number would be 3 times this. You know, the grams we catch are not the smart ones. Smart ones are getting away with it. These are the ones we caught. This is just scratching the surface. There's many, many, many people we know about we can't legally catch. So this shows you where we are with our crack. Now, you know, we have some changing times here with marijuana, with medical marijuana. I will tell you this, we do a lot of compliance checks. When you have people calling saying, hey, you know, I've got concerns with my neighbor, we do a lot of compliance checks to make sure people stay within their boundaries. When they don't, and it's blatantly obvious, then we go over and we work these cases. But frankly, you can't justify the time it takes when you're chasing meth, when you're chasing heroin, when you're chasing crack. This is a way, way distant down the road. But, you know, the laws change continually. It's very, very challenging. We have it on here to let you know that we do what we have to do when somebody is forcing the issue. But frankly, our priority is these really, really hard narcotics right now. There's just no way to justify the man hours, because when you spend all day on a grow op, you're not shutting down meth labs, and you're not getting this heroin off the street, and you're not getting the crack off the street. Our statistics obviously have dropped, and it's dropped just because, like I stated, you know, you only have so many hours in a day, and you have to pick your poison. Which one are you going to focus on? Where this is going to go legislative-wise, I really couldn't tell you. We'll deal with the laws that come in front of us. We're in the enforcement business, not the legislation, and that's the approach I take on this. Now, the last couple slides are probably the most sobering of the whole thing, and this will show you with these opiates the amount of deaths we're seeing in our community, and frankly, it's just shocking. We've had just a tremendous rise in fatal ODs. You know, we never used to have these. Once in a great while, you'd find somebody OD'd on a painkiller accidentally. Now, you know, you're seeing them with mothers that you had the case on, all kinds of things. And one of the basically the godsend that has come to our community is this Narcan. Are you all familiar with what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. That is the remedy they give you when you're on an opiate overdose. And I'll show you what that has done statistically wise in our community here, that this stuff is on board with EMS and the first responders in the community. Now, when you look in 2014, 218 times that was administered. So you get 218 people they brought back that OD. That's a large number. In 2015, we went up 312 times. So 312 times last year, you had somebody dropping over ODing on heroin or pills. Now, when you look at 2015, we had 48 people die of overdoses, and those are ones that nobody was there to help, nobody was there to administer any kind of remedy. You take your 312 and your 48, that's 360 overdoses. That's one almost every day but 5 in 2015. Now, if somebody would have told me you'd have a heroin overdose every day in St. Clair County but 5, I'd have thought, absolutely no way, no way. But that's the truth. The numbers are right there. Oh yeah, lots of them, because there's a big population down here. And again, you know, they're in Lynn Township, and they're in Ira.
There's no demographic.
There's no demographic.
With heroin.
No.
It's clear across the board.
Clear across the board. I mean, crack has a demographic.
Right.
And so does meth.
Yep.
Heroin is so frightening, because I see, you know, high school seniors.
I know all about it.
And I see 50-year-old men. I see housewives. There's no demographic. Nobody can get their hands around that demographic, which makes it really frustrating for us. But when you think about that, 360 overdoses is absolutely unacceptable in our community. 360. And if we didn't have Norcan, we'd have all of those deaths. And that's overwhelming for our medical examiner's office. Now you see our deaths went up and up and up. And then she drops. And she doesn't drop because heroin went away. She drops because the Narcan is more and more frequently. You got the nasal, it's more available, and people are administering it on a regular basis. And I'm guessing we're not going to be long before our law enforcement's doing it as well. Now, stopping our drug dealers, obviously, we're not unique. This is going on nationwide, but Michigan is a little bit unique with meth. Michigan is the fastest growing meth labs in the country. Last year we were third. We had Tennessee and Indiana who were 1 and 2. Michigan was 3. We're number 1 in 2015. We're the fastest growing meth labs in the United States.
Is meth more in the rural areas?
You know, no.
No?
It's everywhere. You know, I guess I shouldn't say, I would say more rural than in a neighborhood because it has a smell to it.
Right, the labs.
But you'll find it in boats. You'll find it in apartment buildings. You find it in lots and lots of low-end motels. But it's easier to manufacture out in the country. You don't smell it, unlike the heroin that is all over the place.
Right.
But it's, you know, if we could say it was just rural, it would be nice, but it's not. It's in lots of apartments and lots of homes. But it's a nationwide problem as well. And obviously the Drug Task Force guys are working really, really hard. How we can get help is obviously, you know, this is televised, people watching this call. So many times people say, I don't want to bother these guys, they're busy. Let me tell you, squeaky wheel gets the grease. A lot of times that one phone call is that call you need. You know, that's that one little piece that you need for your search warrant. So we always tell people, call, and call. Those are anonymous, there's no caller ID. And I'll tell you a good story on that. Probably 20 years ago, a guy would call an anonymous line all the time. And he had a really, really unique voice. And I would listen to him on the answer machine, and we'd try to, you know, solve this problem. And we ended up raiding a house down the street. Probably 20 years later, I'm at Bell Tire, getting tires on my wife's minivan. As embarrassing enough is, I own a minivan, but I do. And we were getting tires on it, and senior citizen sits down next to me. We're making small talk, and there was that voice. It was him. I recognized his voice, so we privately had a real nice little conversation. But so, you know, those calls are so important to us. And again, this may save lives. You know, when you think about this heroin, everybody I've talked to, and we have 500 inmates, almost all of them are in there because of a substance abuse. None of them want to be on it. Their life stops to be their own. They really can't control it once they get on this stuff. And these calls save lives. Now, what we're here trying to change is August 2nd. And again, crack, pills, and meth arrived, and we have to do something different. We're a 4-year renewable. We can't wait 4 more years. We run on the presidential cycle. Since 1985, we haven't touched this millage. Things have changed, and they have changed a lot in the last 4 years. August 2nd is our millage. What we're looking for is our increase. Our increase at a $100,000 home total is $28 a year. It's 8 cents a day is what this will cost. It'll generate about $3 million. You know, you think about these commercials with these countries at risk, underprivileged countries where you can feed a child for $1. Well, you can take care of our drug task force for 8 cents a day. We need your help more than ever. You think about it, Michigan had the largest seizure in the United States. More meth labs hit Michigan than anywhere in our country. And that's a DEA, right out of DC is where that number came from. And probably one of the most disturbing is we had an overdose every day but 5 days last year. Every day but 5. So it's got to stop. The 8 cents per day, boots on the street. We're not putting on administrators, and we're not, you know, buying toys and equipment. It's enforcement. It's employees. It's boots on the street. And we're going to partner with Clay, and we're going to add staff in Port Huron and staff in Clay, and really get a countywide approach, more so than what we have. So that money is strictly for employees and enforcement, boots on the street, drug cops, because we've got more work than we can do. And ideally, if this passes, we'll be able to divide that unit in 2. So you can have a drug team hit in Clay, and the same time they're in Brockway. The next day they're in Port Huron and they're in Casco. The next day they're in Wales and they're in Chicago. We have to be able to divide this county up and really put some enforcement in there. So that is it in a nutshell. I know it's a long presentation. I'd love to answer any questions you have.
You had said that Michigan had the largest amount of meth lab
Increase, right.
increase in,
Yep.
in 2015.
Correct.
Since some of the ingredients, was it pseudoephedrine they used
Yes.
to make it?
Yes.
Since that was taken behind the counter, did you see a decrease?
Well, no, the stats have
Okay,
gone up.
and then I had noticed in some of your pictures what it looked like bottles of pills, large bottles of pills, I would imagine, would have been pseudoephedrine. I don't know what the amount is they need to make it, but do you think that that might be coming from across the border? Have you seen any
No
evidence
question.
of that?
No, there's a lot of stuff comes across the border, and you think about how narrow the river is
Yeah.
and how easy it is, and it's no fault of anybody's. I mean, you can't put enough people on a river to stop traffic like that. So obviously we get it coming out of Canada. It has, I think, helped us track drug dealers because we go through and check who's getting the product. But, you know, prescription opiates come from a doctor. And that's what started the heroin problem. So even if they take the Sudafed completely out of the hands without a script, it's not going to stop the problem because any Tom, Dick, and Harry can spend 5 minutes on YouTube, learn how to cook meth. They can go to Home Depot and Rite Aid and buy every precursor they need and be in business in an hour. That's the problem with it. It is everywhere. Now, one of the things that does help is that meth addicts will shop pharmacies. And then they trade the product that they're getting from the pharmacy for the end product of meth. So, smurfing, exactly.
They send out basically their soldiers and get a group of people together, and they pay them to go out and, you know, this guy can get it now, and now this guy can get it now, and pay them to go out, get it, and bring the product back to them.
And it's smurfing because Smurfs, the cartoons are blue, veterans blue. So if all of you are addicted to meth, every one of you goes to a different pharmacy and gets Sudafed, and then you bring it and we watch you, we'll figure out where the lab is by watching you. And they trade the Sudafed for the end product. So it does help us, but when you look at those statistics, I mean, we're scratching the surface. These are the ones we're catching.
Right.
So it's
I'd also, you guys also have federal officers.
we do.
What is it, 3 different agencies? Are you allowed to apply for grants as an agency?
Oh yes, we
Do
actually
you get federal grants also?
We just got one on medical marijuana, and what it is it's partial education and enforcement, and we can buy equipment with it. We can't put staff on it. We can't use it for wages. We can use it for equipment.
They're restrictive.
Yeah, a lot of grants are. And
Right.
it was a no match. I think we got about 25,000. Last year we bought a trailer so we could transport a lot of the grow up equipment. This year we bought a pickup, partial pickup. We paid for the rest of it out of forfeiture funds. So we do find some grants. The feds are a godsend to us because when you look at these numbers, 12 people, that's all we have.
Right, now you're not paying the salaries of the
No.
federal
I am not.
officers
We are not
either.
paying.
That's
No, and I can tell you a plug. Candace Miller is who got those for us. We tried for a long time to get some help. After 9/11, Homeland Security completely changed and it expanded tenfold, and that's when we started begging for help. And when I got in office, I kept asking, and finally we had Candace make some phone calls, and next thing you know, we got some help. And it's a great partnership for us. Great partnership. We just actually sworn our first customs agent last week. They're new. Air Marine's been about 2 years, and Border Patrol's been about 5 with us.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yep, you bet.
Hey, Tim, I know and believe I'm going to support it. You're pitching to raise the millage for your drug task force. Can you explain a little more granular how that will help us, Clay Township and South St. Clair County?
Well, one of the things, we've always had a partnership since the inception with City of Port Huron. It's county seat, and we've always had a Port Huron officer, and the drug task force funds that, just like they fund regular deputy sheriffs. And we've always had that partnership, and it's been a good partnership because there's an awful lot of activity in that 35,000 population city. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to add a second Port Huron officer, particularly because we may have 2 teams, and then fund a Clay officer as well as more deputies. And we need that because we need a stronger partnership in the south end of the county. You look at Clay and Ira, the population down here, and the amount of heroin we're seeing here. You know, if you have a Clay officer assigned to that drug unit, I think it will bring more activity of an officer that's really in the loop down here. He's worked in a patrol car, whoever it may be, and then they go into the narcotic unit. They really have a real good feel for it versus maybe a deputy that comes out of Fort Gratiot. Secondly, it gives the officers on the street their contact guy to say, hey, I just caught a guy, I want to flip them. They have their guy they know. So I think it's just a no-brainer from our point.
Long
Right.
overdue. I mean, it comes down to we get one of our own guys in there, our guys are definitely going to feel that much more comfortable. And I know our guys are going to go out there and work that much harder, to push those contacts on over to there. As well as, like the sheriff's saying here, to try to do this entire county with what they're doing right now, this has been a problem for many, many years. And, we've all talked about this. And really, this is the only solution there is. You need more boots on the ground. You need more people going out there and hitting these doors and getting these things on the hand of these people. Because the problem's not getting better. It's getting worse and worse by the day.
I don't mean to put either one of you guys on the spot, but there's not a lot of publicity when you guys do any of those drug busts around here.
I think you're seeing that more and more now with social media. I think you're in, and I know the sheriff's department's been doing a lot better job of that.
But there are many people that don't even think it's a problem here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any type of statistics or, what things have you personally seen down here? Because people
Yes.
don't necessarily realize that we do have that. I do, because I talk to you every day.
I think in one essence, our job has always been to make people feel that way. Is that, okay,
Feel
you
safe.
have a very
Sure.
safe community, and that's what we're doing, is providing you a safe community, okay? It's gotten to the point now where you can't really do that anymore. You have to educate the people, and they have to be educated to the point that they realize just how serious the problem is within our jurisdiction. And we're no different than anywhere else, and honestly, within the county here, we're probably one of the highest. We really are. Not to mention, you're talking in our high schools. Okay? You're talking heroin in our high school. Who would ever thought, Almac High School, you're going to have heroin in your high school? And it's not getting better.
And I can tell you a little bit on the advertising. We have a full-time public information officer. We've got a Facebook page, which is
And I see that all, you guys are.
and it's the most
killing it.
active Facebook
Sure.
page out of any of the sheriff's office in Michigan. We work it hard. We got a Twitter account. We hit press releases all the time on drug raids. And I can tell you, that's not all the ones
And
we
we
do.
see a lot of that up in the northern part of the county.
Well,
That's
it-
why I'm saying people around here are going to be like, well, what are they talking about?
It's here, and that's
Because
all the more
we
reason.
don't publicize it a lot.
Well, and we try, but I got to give you an example. Sometimes you may raid a house and not tell anybody because you want to flip the guy
Right.
to get to the bigger house. I know if you're buying heroin from him, and I can't get to him, but I can get to you, I'm going to target you, I'm going to arrest you, and I'm going to hope you'll roll over. And if you do, we don't tell anybody. And then you go work for me and get into him, and then I raid him. And that goes on probably 1 out of every 4 drug raids. And some work and some don't. And that's the nature of it. Again, we don't catch the smart ones. And sometimes we know, I know lots and lots of people that sell drugs that I can't arrest, and they know that I know. But we have, the rules that we play by. But those are ones that never hit the media. But I tell you, the other thing too is that there's so many of these drug raids throughout the county that the Times Herald, who is very, very good to the sheriff's office, looks at them like it's almost everyday business. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It really isn't. The Voice, Yale Expositor hit it really hard because it's a little smaller. Times Herald, I think they just look at it sometimes of, okay, well, we'll give you a little bleep, but there's another one coming tomorrow. And if we don't have that in that night, it's not going to hit the paper.
So,
Like I said, I talk to you more often, so I realize that it goes on here, but a lot of people are going to look at this and say, what's he even here for? Why is he even talking? So I wanted to give you that
Sure.
opportunity just to
Well-
express that there is an issue.
And I think when you see, we sat down and we really struggled whether, should we try to roll this out or just leave well enough alone. And when you look at those statistics speak for themselves. And we're 4 years, and we're not going to wait 4 more years. With that said, then we sat down and thought, all right, how do we partner? Where do we need help? Obviously, we need some more help in Port Huron because that rolls right into Kimball, Fort Gratiot, and Port Huron Township. And Kimball is the 3rd busiest township out of 23 calls for service. We're in Kimball continually. So much of it is drug-related, so we need some help there. South is uncharted territory. So we thought, this is a new day and a new era and a new chief and a new millage, and let's move forward. So that was, Mike and I sat down and said, let's partner up on this and get this thing passed. And I think when you see a clay officer, you're going to see a spike in activity here.
Right.
I think that's an absolute certainty.
That's why I want to get that point out to the board and everybody else, is this passes, it's going to fund, one of our officers is going to be a part of the drug task force.
Fund through the millage.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, through the millage. It'll
Through the
pay for it,
millage,
right.
it'll be
Just
fun.
like we have for Port Huron for 35 years.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's worked really well in Port Huron. It works really well. And it's usually about a 3-year assignment. And, the chief will pick whoever they want and then go forward. And I'll tell you, the benefit of that is the officers come back to patrol with a whole different perspective and a lot of skills that they didn't have. Yep, absolutely. A lot of training, a lot of experience. I went out there and came back, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I went out a second time, and I went out a third time. And every time I learned all kinds of different things that I could utilize when I went back into patrol. Because I knew people that I didn't realize what they were doing until I got out there. So it's a great thing. And all of the people go through DEA school, they go through evidence tech school, they go through entry school, they go through, unfortunately, meth school. So there's tremendous training that the feds provide us, because you have to in today's world, particularly with meth, because it's so dangerous.
I'd like to ask for entertaining a resolution to support this effort.
We're asking for resolutions countywide.
Okay.
Because
Can you give me a copy of
Yep,
one?
I sure can. I can. I mean, not tonight. We can email
Right.
that to you to put on the agenda. Ideally, what we'd like to do is, if we're able to run an ad, and then we would
Yep.
state, Clay Township, Ira Township, Port Huron Township, City Port Huron. And so if somebody picks up the paper, or they know their pocket of the community are supporting it.
Yeah. Well, Tim, I mean, speaking for myself, I'm glad
Yeah.
to see this. I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to, Chief and our old chief too about, the issue we have down here. I'm glad you're doing something, because if not, we'd probably be looking at doing something. I mean, it's a big issue down here, and people just don't realize it.
Well, this is a countywide drug
Right.
task force,
Yep.
so it just makes sense to build on one team and get another
Exactly.
shoulder patch on there, because
Yep, I
again,
agree.
the idea is boots on the street and divide this thing.
Right.
You go back to that one platoon. These people take sick days, they take vacation days, they're tied up in court, and there's, and if we ask for a millage that would pick up 1 or 2 people, the only difference I would find is that instead of getting off at 4 a.m., they get off at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
When a guy's sick,
second squad.
yeah, it wouldn't be enough. Either you got to do this enough to get a second squad,
Yep, I
or
agree.
don't bother messing with it. And we crunched numbers for months, and I lost a lot of sleep over this decision. But we felt we had no choice.
Right.
When you see 360 overdoses last year in meth, like we see, and then the crack was the highest number we'd had in years,
Well, and now that's the spin-off crimes, all the
Oh,
breaking.
no
and-
question about it.
The B&Es and the robberies, and it snowballs.
We talk all the time.
Yep.
It all goes hand in hand.
Yep.
there's 491 beds at the jail, and they're full every day. And with the exception of the feds that we rent space to, almost everybody there is there because of a decision they made because of a substance abuse. Some are alcohol, a lot of crack, a lot of meth. Very rarely is it someone that just made a mistake because they're put into diversion. They usually don't go to jail.
Right.
They're sent into some sort of a diversion, secure probation, tethers, that sort of thing. The people that are in jail, it's the same story over and over again. And good folks putting on their pants one leg at a time. They're our community members, they're our neighbors, they're our kids, they're our nieces, nephews, and and they get on this stuff, end up in jail. And you could walk through our pods and see people you know.
Right.
And the white collar is a real rarity. We see them once in a while. They're a real rarity in jail, in a county jail. You might see them federally, but not counties. It's yeah. When I walk through and I see these inmates, I just maybe I'm getting old, but I look at what they look so young, and they are young.
Yeah.
They're really young. Other questions?
Before I let you go, I have to ask you, we have a lot of boat traffic down here, especially in the North Channel and Middle Channel. And I promised I'd ask you about, enforcement of the no wake laws. I guess, I don't know, we can't do the whole river, but I know the Middle Channel by Dickerson Island, there's a section where if you're over 26 feet, it's no wake. How do we get buoys out there?
There are buoys now, so
No, not that part. There's some signage. Is that a DNR thing, or, I mean?
It's got to get DNR approval, but it's a
Right.
funding, and unfortunately, you know, we just had some we put in a little farther north that were owned by the city of Elginak, so that's
Right.
how we put them on. It's a funding mechanism. If the township has the funding, obviously, we'll put them in.
Okay.
And they do help, and we can mark that in for enforcement. I mean, there's nothing drives people more crazy than watching that water roll up over
Yeah,
their
I mean, a
deck.
lot of it's education.
Oh, a ton of it is
A
education.
lot of it's
and-
education.
You know, and I
some
stopped-
of it's enforcement, but, you
It
know, a
is.
buoy's a lot cheaper than having a boat
Oh,
sitting there with
no,
guys.
it's money
Doesn't
well
happen-
spent.
It doesn't work as well all the time, but.
Well,
but
it's-
What, can you get with me with a few costs
I certainly can.
on that, and maybe we can do something?
I think it's money well spent, and,
Because I hear a lot of people having, you know, property damage from waves.
Oh, yeah.
waves.
The times the water is
Yep.
this year.
and, you know, that there's no question about it. Probably 6 out of 10 boaters you stop are really nice folks that just
Right.
have no idea. A lot
Exactly.
of first-time boaters, you know, we've stopped
Oh,
some
yeah.
big, nice boats. They finally got to the stage in life they can afford it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're wrecking
My
this
first
thing.
boat I ever had is 38-footer. I don't know anything, you know, that type of.
And we find that, and it is an education part, but, you know, when you got 110 miles of
Right.
water,
Oh, I know.
you know, you're really stretched thin.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the nice things we've seen in the last 10 years really is fire departments from the tip of the county to the bottom have boats. That helps a lot.
Right.
You know, whether you're Birchville Fire or IRA, there's boats pretty much consistently on the fire service. That's helped. A lot of those come out of grants.
Right, and we're preparing a resolution for this board to pass adopting help me out. Enforcement? Yeah, so we can enforce the no-wake laws and everything with our own people
Right,
too.
right.
So hopefully that will that be at our next meeting maybe?
I believe so. I think Brandon has it.
Right, we're having the legal review it right now, so,
It's just adopting a public act 452.
yeah.
Right. We've done some similar things with city ordinances and township
Right.
ordinances. Our commercial motor vehicle code, for example, is township. Townships are a little different than cities and
Right.
different than counties, so, you know, corporate counsel will get you in the right place.
Yep.
I know we did that. We adopted motor vehicle code for our commercial motor vehicle, so we could write citations
Sure.
for, you know, garbage haulers under county ordinance. So
So
that's pretty common throughout Michigan. People
Right.
do that.
Yep. And one more question before I let you go. I think you and Mike have talked about it, but I'd like to see some granular training. God forbid if we ever get an active shooter in our schools. And I know you guys are great for tactical going in. I mean, if something happens, God forbid, we're all going in. But I think what we need to do is set up plans where, you know, if something happens in this school, where are we going to, like logistically, block off the public? Where our command center is going to be? Where are we going to do exchange, you know, students to the parents? And where are we going to keep the press and that kind of thing? I don't know, I'd just like to see something.
We have spoken about that.
Right.
And that is something else we're going to be looking at as well.
Right,
We're, you know, we have officers in Anchor Bay and then
Right.
throughout different pockets of the
Yeah.
county. There's an Alice training.
right, they're doing Alice.
We're doing Alice in Port City, PD, Marysville ourselves.
Are we doing that here yet or not?
We are going to be, we're talking with Fort Huron right now and with the county, and we're going to be partnering up with that as well.
Okay.
So, which means that we'll be training together on that.
Right.
We picked that program. We're trying to get everybody together on it. A good example, Port Huron School District has 8 schools in the city and 7 in the county. So we can't provide township training, which is different than a city. You know, in Marysville, you know, you have, I was at Kimball right around the corner. So everything is interconnected in St. Clair County. You got to decide what plan you want to roll out. Alice is the one we like. Everybody's agreed to it. So once we get tied in with Clay, that'll hit the Anchor Bay and the Allegan schools. But they're hitting programs, not only in schools, businesses as well. It's a good program.
Right.
Lieutenant King runs that, and Detective Tunich. I think Lieutenant Platzer at PHPD, and I'm not sure which Marysville officer, but they send them to the training, and I know you guys are in talks with it right now. It's a good program. That
All
helps.
of our schools are in Clay Township now, right?
Yeah,
Or
we
other
got four schools between Clay and Ira, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, I'd like to get granular plans on I mean, and hopefully we'll be in a file, and that file will do nothing but collect dust.
We can
You know,
absolutely.
yeah.
Biggest thing is, you know what?
Yeah, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Absolutely.
So,
And that all comes down to training.
yep.
You guys are doing a wonderful job. Keep it up, and we're behind you 100%.
Yep.
150, 200%.
Certainly appreciate it. Good, hard-working folks out there. You know, they earn their pay every day. They have a tough job.
Oh, yeah.
Tough under, a lot of time, hard
Yeah.
professionally, hard personally on them. No question about it. That's why we cap their assignments. You know, 3 years, they're out.
Time to,
Time to go back and,
yep.
you know, recharge the batteries a little bit. And, you know, it's funny, employees will go kicking and screaming back, and then after about 2 weeks, they're like, oh, this is the best thing I ever did. I'm like, I know, I was there too.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
down,
you.
Tim. It's
Thank
good seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. Number 2 under new business, we have to set a public hearing for the police, fire, and our millage rates renewal and the garbage fee. And we're looking at our August 15th meeting for public hearings. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we set public hearing for police and fire millage rate and garbage fee August 15th, 2016 meeting.
Support?
Okay, we have motion and support. Any discussion? I just want to say too, I mean, we're planning on no adjustments whatsoever, just, you know, so, not to get anyone nervous about it. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I think we have to put that in the paper too, I believe, right?
Yep.
The public hearing. Number 3, we have a request for the fire department to buy 2 new lifepak 15 monitor Defibs. Daryl can't be here right now. He's out, and they did recover that body, so it'll give some somewhat peace to the family. But he's out on the operations on the North Channel, so. We are going to pull it out of the rescue equipment line item, which we have 50,000 in that line item. Number is 206-000-970. We did mention this, I think, one other meeting. And what's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 new lifepak 15 monitor defibrillators to replace the lifepak 12 monitors that are out of date.
Support.
What's it coming out of again?
Rescue equipment line item 206-000-970.
Okay.
We have motion and support. Any more discussion?
Might want to add the price.
Yep, it's
For $49,709.18.
It ain't cheap. But our old ones are out of date, and
Well, these are really expensive. We're actually getting $13,000 back for trading our 2 old ones in.
right, it would have been $13,000 more. So, and like we've said many times, about 85% of our calls to the fire department are medical issues as opposed to fires. Equipment they need, so. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Joanne Shirkey?
Yes.
John Horvath?
Yes.
Cindy Valentine, yes. Artie Bryson?
Yes.
Tom Kruger?
Yes.
Tom Fetter?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Number 4, I think John asked for this to be on the agenda, is clarity on stipends. I guess I can go through this. I guess conventionally, how elected officials have been paid throughout the county and the state is they get X amount of dollars for a year for their term. How state law reads, that the elected official cannot make less than they have made in year one during year 2, 3, or 4. The board does not have the power to lower the salary. And I just use an example when our old clerk, we had problems and our old clerk wasn't coming to work, even showing up. By law, this board, we still had to pay her regular salary. And when that whole fiasco was going on, I mean, I made a pledge to everyone, I'm going to, make it so, that with the internal controls and things, how we changed our, the way we do business, that this isn't going to happen again. And we thought about a way to make our elected officials more accountable to the board, henceforth more accountable to the people, is that their wage, I guess, or salary, so be it, would only cover the statutory required duties of each office. And if by chance someone isn't fulfilling their statutory duties, they can be removed from office. So we thought that the salary should be paid for only the statutory duties, and then and we do a lot of non-statutory duties, if you will, and any additional pay would be paid in a stipend for all the non-statutory duties. Now, the reason we do that is because the board has control over that. If they think one person or one office deserves more or less money based on their job performance in the past, future, or present, the board will have the ability to adjust the stipend, either give more or take less or take away. So I'm thinking it basically makes the elected officials more accountable to the board. How did I do explaining that? Everyone get it? Okay. And that's the idea behind it. We presented it to the MTA. They love it. They're going to suggest that other municipalities follow the same way.
And
Protocol.
The point is, the only way we could do that too is to have a policy manual for the.
And we have policy manuals on what, who does what, and basically standards.
Right.
The concern that has been brought to me is that people think that if you get your base salary, okay? But if you do this, this, and this, that's worth so much. That isn't how that works. Shut me off when I'm wrong. The way I look at it is that as long as you are functioning at your job and you're getting everything done that you're supposed to, I'm not getting any complaints as a trustee, then I think your stipends are in order. I think people think that you have to tag each little thing extra that you do. Now, I'm not seeing it that way myself personally. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it's hard to, there's stuff that walks in our door every day that, we kind of look at each other, who does this? Well, we'll figure it out and we do it. And to put that in a document would be pretty hard. And like I'll just use myself as an example. I put down what I think this board should expect for me to do. And, going forward, and and part of it, a lot of it's in policies that we pass, a lot of it's in the employee handbook, a lot of it's just how we've been doing things in the past and going forward. But as you know, there was a catch or a thing that says, and any other duties that the board sees fit. So it's not like, oh, hey, Artie, we want you to do this, and I'm going to say, well, you got to pay me $75 to do that. It doesn't work that way. You know?
That's what, that was my point.
Right, yeah, that's what I said, it's for doing the job. So,
Essentially, it's for doing the jobs that we're already doing. However, if someone comes in with a different caliber of knowledge, if Artie and I weren't to get reelected, or Tom wasn't to get reelected, that stipend is not necessarily go with that position because they may be able to do all of those extra duties that we can do.
Here, I'm not gonna pick on anybody, but let's just say Tom can balance the books and the next treasurer can't. So we have to ship that out to Stuart Bovan Whipple. Well,
Or,
you know, I don't think that treasurer at that time should be given a stipend because it's costing us more money than if
Correct.
we gave him stipend.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
is everyone satisfied? Anything else on clarity on stipends? Okay. 5, Mr. Fetter, you wanted to talk about the treasurer's non-statutory?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Tom talk about it. Tom, you wanna go over your list of non-statutory duties?
Well, sure. Let me set the stage. First of all, at the last board meeting, I was, we developed this new compensation system that I was on vacation for 3 days. And when I came back, I just wasn't prepared at the board meeting to say anything. So I put together this little thing. Basically, this is all the non-statutory duties that I perform, not over the course of my whole term, but basically over the course of a month. And I thought that was a better reflection as to what I do. Mine is more repetitive. Every month, the treasurer makes payments, does cash reconciliations, makes out checks, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not going to read over each one of these. Everybody's got a copy of them. That's what I put together for the board.
Well, I mean, some of the things that you have on here are some of the things that we have farmed out at the moment.
Like what?
Well, as far as reconciling bank accounts,
Yeah, the board decided to farm out the bank reconciliations. At the time when I was, and Artie too, was busy doing some things that we picked up for, that the clerk used to do in the transition between losing their old clerk and getting our new clerk. As you recall, all of those were board action voted on by everybody on this board, including you.
Tom is in the process of bringing in the reconciliation of the banks in-house, right?
Well, I reconcile all the bank accounts now except the big three.
Right.
And last month I reconciled them. I had a meeting here a few days ago with our accountants on a couple of items to find out exactly what he did with them. And this month I'll be doing the reconciliations again, as will he, to make sure that I'm on the right track. And then after that, I'll be doing them solely without the help of Stuart Bavay and Whipple.
are not the reconciliation of the bank accounts, the balancing the
statutory
checkbook,
duties.
isn't that a statutory duty?
No,
No.
it's not. It's a statutory duty of the clerk,
No,
not of
no.
the treasurer.
No, my statutory duty is to reconcile with your reconciliations.
Balance.
Well,
Let me read the treasurer's statutory duties. Collect real and personal property taxes. Keeps an account of the township's receipts, parentheses, revenues and expenditures. Disperses township checks. Deposit township's revenues in approved depositories. Invest township funds in approved investment vehicles. Collects delinquent property taxes. Responsible for jeopardy assessments and collecting delinquent personal property taxes. Collects mobile home specific tax. You're just a big tax collector, aren't you?
Basically, yeah.
Must appoint a deputy. Must post a surety bond. And member of the Township Elections Commission. So I don't know if, the second one is keeps an account on the township's revenues and expenditures. Is that reconciling the bank accounts?
Isn't that balancing the checkbook, basically? Yeah.
So, but that's the treasurer's statutory duties.
I don't know, there's 12 things on here, and if I look at them, to be honest with you, I don't think this would add up to the amount of time that you're here. So I don't know if you're selling yourself short,
Well, remember,
or
these
if
are
there really
the
isn't that much to do.
Well, these are the non-statutory duties. Okay? First of all, the statutory duties are, I collect all the taxes. I collect all the revenues for the township.
Well, that's outsourced too, isn't it?
To who?
Well, all our billing
The
is
mailing
outsourced.
is.
Yeah.
We outsource the mailing, it's
Right.
cheaper
Okay.
than doing it in-house.
So we don't do that
Sure.
in-house anymore,
By the way, which I suggested.
I'm sure. Process all requests for copies of property tax bills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do we email them a copy, or?
We can, if they want it that way.
Okay. We do an invoice for one person's health care costs a month. We review and adjust budget versus actual cost for budget overruns. Now that, I believe we only do once a year, right at the end of the budget year?
Not necessarily.
Well, that's the only time I've ever seen it. Meet and negotiate union contracts with all labor groups and their representatives. Okay. Enter all funds budget into the computer system and make adjustments as necessary for budget overruns after approval by board. That goes back to number 8. And then we got the mail. You go to the post office and get the mail and then deliver it. Okay. I
Isn't
just
5
wanted
and
to go
12
over
the
all the
same?
extra things that you do.
Isn't 5 and 12 a lot of overlap? About the same thing?
Not really. In 12, I'm looking for inconsistencies in some of our books and records, et cetera and so forth. Some of the things that aren't on this list that have transpired through over my term was, as you recall, we had a clerk that was knocking us down. Well, the first thing that I found was through opening the mail, actually not opening it, observing the mail. I found that there was a lot of letters coming in from government agencies which we shouldn't be getting all the time. And I was in constant contact with Artie about that, and we just decided one day that we better open the mail up to see what she's doing. Well, what we just discovered is there was over $480,000 of penalties that we were being assessed for erroneous filings of tax returns of one form or another. Through our efforts, we were able to get that knocked down to $60,000. But if we would have went on very much longer, I firmly believe that the IRS would have dug their heels in the sand, just like they did with the 60,000, and not allow us to abate that penalty. A little while after that, that led to my discovering that our clerk was stealing from us. And it wasn't the auditors that found it, it wasn't Artie, it
Well,
wasn't
there
anybody
was
else.
an audit that happened before any,
What was that
There
all
was
about?
4 audits that happened
yeah,
before
there
that.
was an initial audit.
Yeah, you did.
We're talking,
Yeah, what,
But anyway, it was, you know, I discovered that she did that, and immediately went to Artie, and Artie and I decided on a plan of action, got our auditors involved, et cetera, and so forth.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot of things that I guess you could say that you do here that aren't written down on this piece of paper.
That aren't regular, non-statutory duties.
Okay, and how many hours do you think it takes you a week to do all this stuff?
I have no idea.
I guess I'm done.
okay. Have anything else? Hearing none. Public comments.
Well, wait a minute.
What, oh,
I mean, that's that, but I thought the reason this was here is we were going to vote on whether the stipend that was recommended by Artie was going to be, my stipend was going to be passed or not. Now that, isn't that the object of the thing, Artie,
well.
or you tell me?
Well, we postponed it. Are we prepared to bring it back tonight, or?
no, I'm not.
Why not?
Okay. I don't know.
What's the reason, Joe?
We'll put on the meeting for next agenda, or next meeting, agenda.
Which
next-
is, by the
What are we
way,
picking
about
on Tom so
2%
bad for?
increase, you know,
Not picking
nothing near what
No, you're not.
was passed for the clerk and the supervisor.
Okay, public comments. Do we have any public comments? Oh, come on up here to the mic, state your name and address, and have at it.
Hi, I'm Amber Campbell. I live at 9435 Island Drive. I'm currently up and running for Township Treasurer, and I just wanted to say that moving to this, I lived in Port Huron most of my life, and moving out here was a big choice for me, and a lot of things that I saw going around, like the parks coming in, and that was one reason I decided to move here. And I really like what's going on in the township, the music in the park, the movies in the park. It's bringing families together. We're meeting all of our neighbors. My favorite thing by far is the farmers market, because I love fresh vegetables. I love to cook. And I think it's great that we're supporting local people, because that's what we need around here. We need that around here. So I'm really looking forward to see what's coming in the future from the township too. So I just wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none. We'll put on the treasurer's stipend on the next meeting. Board member comments. Joanne, you have anything?
No, I don't. We're still working on that
Parks and Rec plan?
Parks and Rec plan.
There's going to
It's
be
gonna
a public,
Public hearing.
yeah,
I mean, a public.
a town hall meeting
A town hall
for public
meeting with-
input.
For public input, yeah.
Do we have a date on that
And there's going to
yet?
be a survey given out
And it's not,
by 27th of July, I think, toward the end of the month.
I'll verify that. That's going to be, yeah.
That we're hoping to have some of the community leaders in here to give some of their ideas.
Public
too,
input.
At our next workshop meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to get that stuff advertised.
We
And
have the survey already set up, and all we got to do is, they're working on it, the planners are working on it to
is it going to be a mailed out survey?
different ways, on the internet, a mail out, different ways of,
Okay,
posting it around, passing it out, different merchant stores or whatever. That's what our group discussion's gonna be about.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you, Mr. Horvath?
No, but God's mad at me, my legs are killing me, I wanna go home.
Okay. What about you, Cindy? You s-
Election's coming up. If you need a application for an absent voter ballot, make sure you give the township a call or email. We'll get one out to you.
Okay, Mr. Fetter?
Yeah, I'd just like to express my sympathy to the family of the gentleman who lost his life in the North Channel this weekend. It was a terrible, terrible thing to happen. People, please be careful on the waterways. There's thousands of boats out there. We had a difficult time putting our boat in this weekend. We couldn't find a ramp with a spot to park. Jet skis that go 80 miles an hour, people who do not know where they're going, people who do know where they're going, trying to avoid the people who do not know where they're going. Take it easy out there. Watch how much you drink. And if you're gonna jump off of a boat, put a life jacket on, especially if you've been having fun. Just be safe out there. It was really sad to hear that. I was right down there when the dispatch came out, and to see all the different rescue teams come into action was I don't like to see that. I don't like to see you guys out there. You know, I like to see you running down the river once in a while, but I don't like to see you in action because that means that there's trouble. Let's see, what else? As far as, I just wanted to say, Tom, you're gonna have a hard time justifying a lot of the things that you say that you do here. And I think you need to work on that in the coming months. Okay? That's it, thank you.
Okay. You have anything, Tom?
Well, I don't know, you know. No, I do have something to say.
Okay.
You know, I've been dealing with this township for 24 years, one avenue or another. And I'm a certified public accountant. I still am. And I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know, I came into the treasurer's job. I caught people stealing. I made changes. All in all, probably saved the township hundreds of thousands of dollars in one way, shape, or form. And I still do everything that the previous treasurer did and more. And I laugh when I hear this stuff. I mean, these guys don't like me because I don't take their crap. That's C-R-A-P. But, you know, to say that a certified public accountant with 20 years' experience in the township can't do this job is ludicrous. Just plain ludicrous. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to kind of expound on what Mr. Feather was saying about, you know, we did have what was the last week, Thursday, a bad wave runner accident too, where someone, you know, needed to be flown out, and it was sad. And the gentleman that lost his life here yesterday, and you know, he's a good family man, I'm sure, and there's a lot of sorrow going on between those two. Other than that, it was a great weekend. We had spectacular weather and people enjoying themselves everywhere. But I think you just, people forget that, you know, dumb things can happen out there, and they think that there's rules don't apply, but and usually when something like that happens, there's 3 or 4 things that go bad for a catastrophe to happen. So, yeah, so just be careful out there. So,
Motion to adjourn?
yes.
Sport.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Tim, for coming
Yeah.
by. And that was great. Okay, and you too, Lieutenant Kuligowski.
The support of the dismissal